Chapter 24. A particularly slow news day. As February drew to a bitter, dreary close, the newspapers found themselves at a rare loss for words. Doldrums had set in during the weeks following Purdy's folly, and with no Wheeler courtroom dramas to fill their pages or new evidence to mull over, the press were forced to revert to their old ways, mass-distributed wire stories filled with colorful eccentrics, augmented by a few extended obituaries and some local gossip about engagements and graduations. So it was with palpable relief that the Yarmouth Times announced a juicy new tidbit relating to the Kempton murder. It seemed that some folks now believed a man by the name of Joseph Pictou might be responsible for Annie's death. Joseph was a member of a Micmac band relegated to a small reserve just outside of Bear River. According to then unnamed sources, Pictou was seen leaving his home at 3 a.m. on the morning of the murder. He walked to the Bear River railway station and took the early westbound train. Although witnesses at the time assumed he was heading for his job in Hectanuga, Pictou stayed on the train until Yarmouth. There he visited with the Moffat family, whom once lived in Bear River. When news of Annie's murder reached the Moffats, Pictou, whom the Times referred to as the Indian, reacted strongly and grew pale. He told the Moffats he had seen Annie on the Bear River Bridge on the afternoon before she died. Pictou then grew quiet, refusing to say another word on the matter, and soon left the Moffat home. According to one anonymous source, Pictou did not return to work or his home for almost a week, choosing instead to visit relatives and friends at various lumber camps in the region. How such an innocuous chain of events painted Pictou as the perpetrator escapes all logic and reasoning, but the story was a fresh morsel for an avaricious press pack. The Times, anxious to wash its hands of reporting such flimsy gossip, ran the story for what it was worth. The paper offered little comment or speculation as to the veracity of the rumor, a rare showing of editorial restraint. Not so for the Digby Weekly Courier. On February 28, it scavenged the Times account, repackaging it as an important breaking development. Unlike its more reticent competitor, the Courier did not shy away from offering ample opinion regarding the unsubstantiated report, protected only by a straw man. After congratulating the Times for resisting the temptation to editorialize on the rumor, the Courier adroitly passed the buck. "We would not do so either, but in talking it over with some Bear River people, we find that the idea is generally held by them as improbable. This is as we hear it, but there is enough in the rumors to make them worth investigating." The Digby Courier's account then served as fodder for the Bridgetown Monitor, which saw things quite differently. According to the Monitor, the Moffats were quoted as saying, "From the first we had thought there was as good reasons to suspect the Indian as Wheeler." The Moffats made a strong, if perhaps unintentional, point: there was no more evidence against Pictou than existed against Wheeler. The only strike against either man was the dark hue of their skin. At least the Moffats were consistent in their rush to judgment. Although the Digby Weekly Courier had labeled Wheeler a blackguard and mongrel from the very beginning, the paper was quick to absolve Pictou of the crime on the basis of nothing but a vague character reference. "Pictou has always borne a good record, is quiet and well-inclined, and the last man to be suspected of such a crime." Blind to its own hypocrisy, the Courier argued that Pictou should not be falsely accused of a crime based solely on rumor and some odd behavior, all the while using this exact suite of traits to condemn Peter Wheeler. Within the succoring confines of the Annapolis Valley, no fewer than 3 papers had made a meal of an unsubstantiated rumor. That these 3 beacons of journalistic integrity derived such disparate accounts from a single anonymous source staggers the imagination. Even more bewildering, the St. John Daily Record then rifled all 3 accounts and offered its own iteration of the tale, stating that a strange Indian had been seen lurking in the Kempton House vicinity for some days before the murder. The Record later amended its account, claiming the report was traced to unreliable sources. One can only hope they were referring to their competitors and not the Moffats.